We've been waiting for a while to do one of these after a victory. Gene, pop that beer.
Pop it, man. Woo, been waiting for
buddy. All righty, folks, you are here. We are here. The warchant.com post-game show commences. Florida State, they're on the board. Mike Norvell is on the board as the head coach of the Seminoles. Florida State with a 41-24 victory over Jacksonville State. If you polled all of us Noles about 2.5 hours ago, what we thought this call was going to go like, not so hot. Gene Williams, founder and administrator of warchant.com. Your thoughts today, sir? Much different last couple of hours.
My thoughts, man. First of all, sigh of relief. I mean, that was like you said, man, that thing was dicey. Come about the middle of that second quarter. But then I guess there's a couple things I want to get into here. I guess, first of all, Florida State's found its quarterback. I mean, that's going to be the number one storyline of this game. And I think moving forward for the rest of the week is Tate Rodemaker got the start. Not a huge surprise there, considering we thought, you know, he would get out there, and he actually started the game. Really scary, bad start, unfortunately, for the young man. Threw that pick six on that first drive. It just didn't look comfortable. And then you bring in Jordan Travis in the second quarter, and then, Tom, the light switch flipped, and 5 straight touchdowns for Jordan Travis. I mean, it seemed like really that first deep pass he had, and that was that Keyshawn who got that first long one?
Keyshawn down the field. Yep, for the touchdown.
That was the first one. And then you could kind of see a little bit of confidence because he just wasn't throwing. And we knew people like, can he throw the football? We've never seen him really do it. And he did that. You can kind of see from him it was starting to turn, okay, I can do this. I can run and throw. And then, man, the floodgates open. I still have a lot of issues the way the defense was playing most of the game. But, man, FSU, let's start with that first, Tom. Talk a little about your impression of Jordan Travis. 5 straight touchdowns in a row, 6 of 7 touchdowns. He would have, if not for back-to-back holding calls on that one drive, it might have been perfect. He might have scored a touchdown on every single drive.
Or might have been.
And I looked 13 out of 18, 215 yards. He was when he went in, they were 8 of 11 on third down. So he was moving them consistently up and down the field. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch.
Well, he's running essentially an FSU version of an option, right? You've got choices at the line of scrimmage in terms of to run or to keep yourself, and then you have the bubble option on the outside. This is, a run-pass option concept that we had all the way back to the days of Jimbo Fisher, where Jameis would check outside with Kenny Shaw. And if you get a block, then you might spring him for an 8 to 9 yard gain. In the span of about 5 passes, it went to, can he throw a forward pass to, oh, wow, has he been doing this in practice for this long? Because, why wouldn't he be the guy that emerges as the front runner instead of a true freshman in Tate Rodemaker? And let's be clear here. We've seen Jordan Travis throw forward passes in a spring game in the past and in spurts last year. Like he has the arm strength to get the ball down the field, but the injury that was holding Jordan out of camp and out of scrimmages was said to be an upper body injury, maybe something that would affect his mechanics and his arm strength. And you saw it, the one throw earlier a couple of weeks ago, he spiked it right into the ground. Well, now a few throws into this game, he thought, well, okay, if he can stretch the field, force the safeties to look down the field and honor the vertical pass, which they were not with Tate Rodemaker. Everything was to the perimeter, outside and within 5 to 7 yards. Now you're opening up all the elements of this offense. And to that end, Gene, the 5 drives in a row where Florida State scored, that's 45 plays for 379 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Wow.
What a difference 1 hour makes.
Unreal.
It looked like Jacksonville State was up 14-0 in this game and had the football. They were up 14-0, had the football, felt like they were going to go up 21-0. And then after that, Florida State answered every single time. 5 drives in a row. At that clip, 45 for 379, I know it's an FCS opponent playing their first game, but Gene, we were starving. We'll take any more.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You got some, the offense has been so anemic, and you need he sparked them. And then you could see the running backs started to play, and I want to talk about that a little bit too when we get past Jordan Travis. Really like what I saw to those guys. Put up this drive chart. And that's, you love seeing those TDs. That's always a good sign when they do that. And for the most part, there are a couple chunk plays in there, but they did churn up and down the field. Look at some of these drives, 13 plays, 12 plays, 10 plays, 11 plays. You love to see that as an offensive guy because you're accomplishing so much. You're demoralizing the defense. You're wearing them down. The running game kicked in more with a lot of that stuff. And yet the last thing we want to talk about really with Jordan Travis before we move on and talk about the rest of the game, Tom, is the awareness. I think once he got a little bit of confidence, knowing down and distance, knowing there were sometimes it looked like he was going to run, and then he would throw it because that play was there. There's a couple times he kept it, he faked the pitch one time, ran forward, picked up the first down. It's little things like that you've seen missing at the quarterback position where there's not the awareness of really what's going on around him. So that was a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, he's got a third down conversion late in the game where it's clear as he's rolling to the left, he could get it with his legs if he wants to, but he hits Pokey Wilson up the side. Got the confidence in the arm to deliver a strike down the field. That's when the game is already, becoming in Florida State's hand. You've got a couple of plays where he decides to keep the ball finally on a read option, one that's around the goal line. All right, we like that. He slipped and fell, or else he probably would have scored a touchdown there. You've got throws to the perimeter. In that check with me, kind of the bubble concept on the outside. You have a quick flare and a receiver blocking to the perimeter. He had the confidence to make throws late, decisions late after he had somebody commit to him. Yeah, I mean, you check all the boxes in this one. I think moving forward, I don't know that Mike Norvell is going to commit to this, but I think moving forward, doesn't the message of the total snap count tell you that Jordan Travis is going to be the starter at least entering practice this week? Has to be.
Well, yeah, I think he'd have a riot on his hands. I mean, you could see too the big smile on his face, on Jordan Travis's face, and the sideline. The players, they were feeling it too. You can't take that away from them. I mean, not only the fans would be in an uproar, I think his team would be in an uproar because they finally have some confidence, have something positive that this program's been waiting for a long time to have. So, yeah, I think that's a done deal. He's going to be your starter. And I think we need to touch out, Tom, there was, and they were really playing with a couple hands tied behind their back. Starting this game, you had a lot of players were out.
Yep.
They're expecting to play. We don't know what the deal was. Dante Lucas came in later after 2 offensive lineman injuries, but he did not start the game. Maury Smith did not play in the game. There were rumors about them being suspended. I don't know. I haven't heard confirmation of that. And then you had 2 players go down. Darius Washington went down. Andrew Bruselli, who got the start at one of the guard spots, also went down with an injury. So that was tough. Warren Thompson, as far as I know, I don't know if he was suspended. I don't know if he dressed out even. I did not see him out there at all. And, of course, we knew Marvin Wilson was suspended for the first half because of that sort of targeting call in the Miami game. So, I mean, they were really – it was a tough situation even personnel-wise. But, they did overcome it. I know it's an FCS opponent. But, I mean, you could have packed that thing in. With everything going on, everything's gone against you so far this season. You're down 21-7. Things aren't looking good. But you did what you had to do, and you came up with a win and won, rather decisively at the end.
Yeah, the offensive line decisions in the beginning, Gene, that reeks to me of coach's decision, whether it's aptitude or discipline or something else. That seemed to me like a choice made because the best 5 are going to play and maybe the most committed 5. But if you look at what Dante Lucas did last week.
John Porter said, I guess Maury Smith did play. I guess I had the problem watching on TV, not being in the press box. So maybe he did play. Okay, I didn't see him in there, but.
Shuffled into center late in the game. He had a snap infraction. Actually, I was on snap infraction watch when Bavion was announced as a starter. I thought, oh boy, here we go. But clearly they had the snap count down. They were even changing it up a little bit, and they induced a couple of offsides calls. Okay, way to keep a defensive line off balance. But through necessity, some of those other guys played, and I saw even Devontae Love-Taylor, who started at right guard in this game, flexed out to right tackle, and then swung over and played left tackle in this game. But I think, Gene, the shuffling of the offensive line in the beginning certainly was a coach's decision. But hey, look at what they were able to do in the middle stretch of this game where you have your 5 consecutive touchdown drives. This play that Florida State keeps going back to, in which they pull a tackle and then they pull a guard and then they pull the tight end around to create a power or a counter look. They're running it over and over and over again, and they're able to find success. That was one of the plays that they were able to run against Miami last week with some consistency. It was in mop-up duty sometimes. Sometimes it was on a 3rd and 20, but they were able to get 15, 17 yards back. Kenny Dillingham said it this week in his media availability with you guys that we have to find what we're good at, and if that means that we've got to run some things over and over and over again, we'll do it. I think in the ground game, they did just that. It was very repeatable, but it was a rinse, repeat, and successful process this afternoon.
Yeah, it really was. And by the way, I think Helicopter, this is not apple cider, dude. I don't drink that stuff. That's real beer. No, but yeah, and I got to give a shout out to Cam McDonald because we did a show a while ago, and I said I didn't think he was that good of a blocker, most of a receiver. He's had some nice blocks in this game and the last game, so he's stepping up, and he got to bring out the. You saw on the TV, he got to have the sledgehammer. So this will be the first time. Hopefully we'll get video of that later. He gets to smash the rock with the JSU logo on it. So hopefully we'll see that video come out later. But yeah, all that blocking you mentioned and all the pulling led to over 250 rushing yards by Florida State. And really it was a 3-headed attack with the running backs. Man, it was nice to see running backs following their blocks, bouncing off guys. In the case of LaDamian Webb, doing a nice little spin move. Speaking of helicopter, I mean, that little spin move down on the goal line to score that touchdown was an unbelievable play by him to show off his balance. So those three running backs, and Toafili, let's talk about the freshman. 99 yards rushing, 8.3 yards per carry by Toafili. I mean, very, very impressive. I think this is going to be the way. This is what I think Mike Norvell likes to do, is have 2 or 3 running backs and rotate them in and out and keep them fresh. But, man, they all looked really good.
Yeah, Webb low to the ground. It's like tackling a fire hydrant, right? And he's got that kind of balance. I think the broadcast mentioned it. Maurice Jones-Drew, Devonta Freeman, as he got older in his career, right? A much more stout presence. Toafili on the edge for his touchdown run. A couple of whiff blocks on the perimeter by the receivers. If we're getting ticky-tacky about what didn't work today, that was a little bit inconsistent. But Toafili is able to make a guy miss. I mean, again, this is an FCS opponent, and I see that Robert does that, and Travis should have looked like a good player today. A lot of these players on Florida State's roster should look good against the FCS opponent. I understand, and I agree with you, Robert. But when you're starving for production at any point, and we start the way we did in the first quarter of today's game, it ends up with 41 points on the board. I'm going to be more happy than not for a few hours. Maybe on Monday when we're doing other stuff and you guys assemble for a press conference and I'm doing a radio show at 3 o'clock. Maybe then I'll be a little bit more on balance, but I'm going to cherish this win because I know what's coming up next week. So for today, okay, do what you're supposed to do. That's a start because Florida State has not been doing what it's supposed to do for quite some time. Of course, tonight's show is always about you on the warchant.com call-in show. It's 850 is the area code for those of you that live out of town. 805-5911. You can call. I'm looking at the call sheet right now, Gene. We already have a few people on hold.
All right.
A lot of people want to voice their pleasure, I would think. Usually it's their displeasure, but voice their happiness.
Yes, finally.
Well, we can go to our first caller if you want, Gene, or if you want to do some more observations, we can do that.
Yeah, let's take a call. Let's share some of the, again, like you said, it's a baby step. I wrote about that early in the week, and I said, man, I get it. It's a baby step, but it's a positive baby step forward. Even at anything, I mean, they've lost four in a row, and every single the last 4 games have not even been losses, but just humiliating bad losses the way they've gone. So, I mean, it's something positive for this program, but you could see the infectious nature when they started moving the football. Jordan Travis was smiling. You could see the defense pick up its game. The running backs were, starting to play a little bit more physical. There is something to that, and this team has to learn how to have some success, and they just haven't had that. So I get it. It's an FCS team. You should have won. You were a 26-point favorite, but still, you won, and the way you won, too, is positive, too, because you started out bad, you overcame it, and then you just freaking rolled.
So quarterback play, I would think, is going to be the topic du jour tonight for quite a few callers, and that's the first one. So you hear the bell, that means it's your time, and Michael just heard the bell for the first call of tonight on the warchant.com postgame show. Michael from Thomasville, welcome to the show. What say you tonight, sir?
Hey, how are you?
We're doing well. How about you?
I'm good. So just going out and watching them play. It was a little bit rocky in the first half for sure, but especially whenever Travis got in, you could see the running game pick up. And I think from this moment forward, he should be QB1.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, you nailed it. I mean, I don't think there's any question. Like I said earlier, I think there might be a riot both by the players and the fans if he didn't start this next game, because you could not only the numbers pan out. I mean, he scored a touchdown, led him to a touchdown run almost every time he was behind center. But I mean, he had the feel. He converted on third downs. The players seemed to rally around him. So it's some positivity the team has been looking for going back to late 2019, and they finally have it. So, yeah, you better start Jordan Travis.
What about Robert's question, Gene? And Robert, thank you again for shouting us out, giving us a super sticker. He was lamenting the fact that you didn't see enough of the freshman today. Chuba, of course, didn't play. Tate did, and he wasn't giving Mike Norvell much reason to roll him back out there. Your thoughts on that, just in general?
Well, I think because of the way the game flow went, I don't think you could have I think the plan was, because I heard he got a lot of reps in practice this past week. Chuba did, so I think the plan was to get him out there. But, man, you're fighting for your lives. I mean, obviously they fell down 21-0. So then the next plan was to bring Jordan Travis in, and the offense was clicking. The last thing you want to do is pull him out in a game that's in jeopardy when your quarterback's clicking, just so you can get Chuba some reps. So that one I understood. I did think, and I'll have to go back and look at the reps, and we have a feature of you on War Chant. We do a Pro Football Focus feature, and I'll look at a lot of the snap counts. So I'm not really sure. It's hard on TV when I'm there to look, especially on the other side of the ball. who played and who didn't play in the defense. I don't know if you have more input on that, but I thought I would see a few more young guys back there, but I didn't see a whole lot on TV.
I saw some of the young linebackers later in the game, Gene.
Okay.
The participation report, I don't have it just yet. But what I do know is that, obviously when Jordan comes in and you're getting that hot as an offense, it's hard to roll Tate back out there. It's hard. I mean, that's 5 straight touchdown drives. Can you really tell the young man that enough's enough? Let's go get Chubb in there.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot. If you're up 30, no problem, even if 5 consecutive touchdown drives. But as it was, Florida State's looking for a win. The game was still in the balance. Jacksonville State answers a touchdown in the second half with a field. So it's just, you're in a really tough spot there. Next up on the WarChant.com call-in show is Brad from New York. Brad, you just heard I think you did. Why is this freezing up on me? There we go, Gene. He just heard the bell. He's on the call-in show. Brad,
all right.
Talk about Tate. Your thoughts, Brad. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Gene. Thanks for having me. So I actually have 2 questions. I'll ask my question about Tate Rodemaker first, and then my second question. So if you're Mike Norvell or you're Kenny Dillingham, how do you handle Tate Rodemaker's performance from a mental perspective this week in practice? I know he's a true freshman. I know he kind of had a rough go of it, but you need him going forward in the program. And then my second question is for you guys. When we were down 14-0 and then 21-0, how did you guys mentally prepare for this show? Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Brad.
Well, Brad, I was opening the liquor cabinet. As I said during, I don't know if you were in the happy hour, I said, remember the old TV would at the end of the night and you'd have the bars, all the color bars, and they play the national anthem at the end. We were just going to say technical difficulties and have that going during the whole thing if FSU were to lose this game. So yeah, no, it was a little frightening. So it's a much better feel right now. But yeah, it's a really good question. How do you handle? I mean, it's tough. Obviously, the young man got his chance, maybe the biggest day of his life, getting a start for Florida State, his dream school, going out there, and then obviously had a rough start. But you got to tell him. I mean, it's just like a pitcher in baseball. If you go out, just first time in the major leagues, maybe you get shelled your first time out, and a lot of guys do that and they bounce back from it. So it's your first game. You're going to play a lot more football in your career. Just keep learning. We got confidence in you. You know you're going to be a good quarterback and hang in there. And I think the good thing is Tate's got his dad as a coach. I think he's got a nice support system around him, and his dad's going to give him some pointers. And I think it'll be fine for Tate.
Yeah, he sounds like he's pretty honest, Gene, in terms of his own self-assessment and the availability this week and you can find all these videos for media availabilities on WarChant TV on YouTube right here. Mm-hmm. And if you hit the subscribe button and then the bell afterwards, you'll be alerted every time you have a new video. But Tate's not that big of a talker yet as a true freshman. That's tough for guys around the media when they're that young.
Yeah.
But he seems fairly honest and candid about whether he plays well or he does not play well. And when you have the start that Tate did, and then Jordan comes in and lights the world on fire, I think it's a little bit easier for the coaches to say, hey, listen, young man, you're going to get your shot again, but look at what 13 did. I'm not about to pull him out of the game because our message is best player is going to play. And when we have 45 plays for 379 yards and 5 touchdowns on 5 consecutive drives, well, I think 13 is going to stay, don't you? And that's easy for Tate to say, yes, sir. All right, let's learn and get better. If it was something where everybody else was struggling, James Blackman comes back in the game, and there's a name we haven't mentioned until just now on the WarChant.com post-game show. If it's a situation where you have a rotating carousel of quarterbacks who are all struggling, maybe it's not as easy to deal with that question and to deal with Tate this week. But when Jordan does what Jordan does, that quiets a lot of questions, and that it answers a ton of them for you. Next up on the WarChant.com call-in show is Sanders, and Sanders is calling from Crystal River, Florida, and I believe this is a Jordan Travis topic as well. I think that's going to be the theme tonight. Welcome to the show, Sanders. What say you?
Hi there, guys. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to ask about so when we were down 21-7, there's that 4th and 1 where Travis takes the option off to the outside, and I guess he barely got it because they moved the chains and we hiked the ball, but he didn't get it on my TV. I wanted to know if you
Sanders, there's something wrong with your TV then.
And if Travis is so great, why didn't he get the start? Also, those are the 2 things I wanted to talk about.
That's well. We're gonna have. I mean, I know Mike Norvell, I think as we speak, is doing his interview with the media, so we hope to have that up shortly. And I'm hoping that's one of the things the media may ask. Like, he played so well, why didn't he start? We'll have to see. I got to tell you, I do agree with you, Sanders, a little bit. my TV, I didn't say it. What D didn't make it, but I go, man, that is close.
Yeah,
that is razor close. And I was just thinking, man, when they converted that 4th down and went down and scored, I go, that could be the play that we can look back and go, that might be the difference in the game, being able to convert that. Reminded me, there's the old choke and doke. There's a play, and I forget who he hit over the middle. It was just, there was just by an inch converted a 4th down, and then they rolled from there. Obviously a big difference in this game and that game, but yeah, that 4th down was critical. But the officials also had a few other sketchy calls I wasn't thrilled with. So that if they gave FSU one, well, they deserved it.
Well, how about the hat trick +1, Gene, on the useless replay reviews for no reason? I mean, these are obvious plays.
Oh, my gosh.
Touchdowns or catches or whatever.
Every time FSU had a big play, it's like, nope, we can't let you have that. We're going to slow it down. Between that and Jacksonville State now, it seemed like most of them were legitimate when they were going down, but every time there was a play, I mean, one of their players was down, or you get a replay review. Maybe these guys were paid by the hour. I don't know what was going on.
Well, if I'm judging it on the fly, I'd say maybe 1 out of 3 or 4 were legit. 1 out of 3 or 4 were shaky. The other ones, I mean, this is the first game of the year. I know it's not 95 degrees out there, but that's a long game to play. And the way that Florida State was wearing them down, just play after play, at some point you're going to cave. And that's Gary Patterson, the official, too, not the head coach, but that's Gary Patterson.
Yeah, I heard the Gary Patterson. I was like, what? He's officiating now?
Yeah. Well, he called a game years ago. It was the one on the road at Wake Forest in which Dalvin Cook, he ran for like a 90-yard touchdown, and then he pulled his hammy after. That game was a special one in ACC officiating lore. So once I saw him, he's up there. Ron Terry's gone these days, Gene, but when I see that dude, I go, oh.
Well, don't you think this is the bottom of the barrel? I mean, if you're doing Florida State, Jacksonville State, you're probably the very worst of the worst in the ACC.
Yeah, you're not grading out that well in the home office in the ACC, that's for sure. Mike in Ocala is next, and Mike in Ocala wants to talk about the defense, and he just heard the bell on the warchant.com postgame show. Mike, welcome to the postgame show. Your thoughts, good sir?
Hey, guys. First of all, I just want to say thanks for taking the call. I really enjoy listening to the show, and I do have some defensive comments, but naturally, I just wanted to just touch on Norvell for a second. I have a lot of respect for him for letting Tate go out there and get his 4 drives and at least giving him a chance, and just letting him try at least. But obviously, we all saw that the game was maybe a bit too big for him at the moment. But getting Jordan Travis out there, the identity of the entire offense has literally just changed. I think our offense is going to be much harder to scheme against now defensively for other teams, because if we have an actual college quarterback that can move his feet and make things happen, then man, it's going to be so much more dangerous offensively. And obviously he can throw. He didn't throw super deep or all the time, but he at least made plays and was able to scramble and be somewhat accurate. So I think the future's bright at QB and Jordan Travis, as long as we can keep him healthy. And a couple things about defense. First of all, I did want to applaud the defense for for stopping them there at the end on the 4th and 7 and not let them convert and shutting them down defensively with the turnover there. So I thought that was really good. But the one thing that still bothers me about the defense is that our zone play is still very porous, and teams and quarterbacks are just finding the spots, finding all these different areas around our defense that they can just throw to that's always wide open. One thing I thought we did do better was close out on receivers better, making tackles and not taking 3 or 5 yards to make up before we hit someone. But overall, if our zone can improve some, then I feel like we'll see our defense doing much better, and that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, I will say the defense, at least it was, I think they gave only 3 points in the last 2.5 quarters. So that is encouraging. They played a little bit better. But yeah, it drives me nuts. A lot of and Tom, I know you're more of an aficionado, really seeing what's going on. Maybe they're at that second level, kind of in that middle of the field, man. It just, just a short little, it seems like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yard passes all the time. They just always seem to be there. There's no pressure. There's no hands and guys facing. I will say the coverage was a little bit better, but they were never making a play on the ball. It just seems like pitch and catch all day long. Yep. And they really used that to huge effectiveness in those first few drives against Florida State. And then they kept a lot of other drives going because of it. Yeah,
I think Jordan Travis is the ultimate perfume for another lackluster day for the defense. And it was interesting to see how the defense came alive when the offense gave a little bit of a reason. That's complimentary football, and that's culture, and that's how things can get contagious, Gene. But I agree with you. I mean, at the linebacker level, that's where those quick passes up the middle I mean, if you think about how, Jacksonville State stacked some of their drives early and how Florida State did not, the middle of the field was a place that Jacksonville State would use. And Florida State did not with Tate. It was all little short things to the perimeter.
Yeah.
There was nothing. I mean, he took one shot down the field, but there was nothing in that little space right around that linebacker second level. And you're just seeing guys that they're thinking their way through still. And it's really frustrating because you have some older players that weren't developed. You have some younger players who are going to make rookie or freshman mistakes. And you're just going to have to wear it at the linebacker level and hope by the end of the year their training comes up to speed. But just quick little simple RPO movements of I'm going to hand the ball off or I'm going to hit the slant behind you. Florida State's linebackers are getting abused in that particular situation. And then the off coverage in the perimeter, we saw that again still. Asante Samuel is capable of coming up and playing, I would think, close man-to-man or press coverage. But you're seeing in some circumstances quick hitters to the perimeter for 6 and 7 yards at a time. And that really can get frustrating. But again, when you score 5 touchdowns in a row on offense, you get a couple of stops and the avalanche effect is going the other way. We kind of forget about the defense for a quarter or two. And they did finish. They needed a penalty late to get there with the illegal man downfield.
Yeah.
Finish, and
they finished. They played a little bit better. But, yeah, that's going to be the frustrating part, I think, going forward. And you're right. I'm going to be interested in seeing the grades because I think last week Leonard Warner, Emmett Rice were the bottom 2 grades in the entire defense. And these guys are seniors, and this should not be consistently happening. But it's consistently happening. I'm wondering if they're at the bottom, which, again, why are we not seeing more of these younger players? Maybe they're seeing them in practice. They're just not any better. I don't know, but I can't imagine it's much worse.
Well, and that's a good point that you bring up, Gene, because one of the previous callers said, well, didn't they see this in practice? Why didn't Jordan Travis play? Maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't see this from Jordan Travis, the consistency and the confidence, the ability to make the decisions and the amount of time like he was making it, getting the ball down the field with accuracy. Maybe they didn't see that enough to say he's the guy we're going to go with. I suspect that if he did that in practice, Mike Norvell would be effusive and it's your turn, Jordan. I mean, in preseason, remember, he missed the first scrimmage and Norvell said the sky's the limit. There is no ceiling for Jordan. So I found that to be a very interesting balancing act of if he's not participating yet the sky's the limit, then what exactly are we looking at here? Well, the good part of what Mike was talking about and looking at, I think Florida State fans finally got to see today.
Yeah, they did. And, it's your theory, too. I'd heard a rumor that it was something with his shoulder was going on. I know he had a lower body injury, too, but I'd heard a rumor about a shoulder injury or something, which it looked like when I saw that throw in the Miami game, I go, that makes sense because it sure looks like he does. And that also may explain why he hasn't seen the field more, why he's not throwing more. And, again, it was always like, why is Blackman out there? Well, all your other players are hurt. And we saw Rodemaker, again, he was signed with the intention of redshirting. Nobody really thought he was going to come in and be the starter in game 3. That was never in the plans, but they were forced into it. But fortunately, Jordan Travis was healthy enough to go out there and played extremely well.
Big time, fortunately. 805-5911. That's 850-805-5911. We do have some lines open for you on the warchant.com post-game show. But the next caller up is Nick from New York, New York. We've had a couple of callers from the state of today. And let's see, Gene, he wants to talk about Jordan Travis. So welcome to the show, Nick, and share your thoughts with us.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
After seeing Travis play tonight, it looks like he's at least competent. And considering the offensive line has been just as bad over the past, 3 years or so, do you think that if he was given the opportunity to play in some more games last year, would last year's team have won some more ball games? And, maybe had a different effect on how Willie's tenure turned out here.
Yeah, what could have been, we'll never know. I mean, just a lot of the way that things were run with the program last year was just awful. It wasn't just a quarterback play. There were so many things you heard behind the scenes, the lack of organization, the lack of discipline, everything else. It just maybe would have won another game or so. I don't know, but I still think at the end of the day, the change had to be made. But, I mean, I think talking more about Jordan Travis, Tom, what I find interesting, you don't have to be, if you're that mobile and you can get that RPO going and you can have some good play calling, you don't have to be an elite passer. We saw this a couple times. The defense has so much to worry about. The guys are going to break open when you have that running threat in there. You see it all the time. You see it in the NFL. You see it with Lamar Jackson. I'm not comparing him to Lamar Jackson, but I mean, half the time you see Lamar Jackson making these long touchdown throws, nobody's even on him in the NFL because they're so worried about the running attack. So you can do a lot with that. And I think that's a very positive thing with Jordan Travis as he continues to develop, and the coaching staff can now focus a little bit more on, let's utilize this guy, and utilize these legs and call plays that are going to take full advantage of it, I think you're going to see more and more passing plays open up for him.
Yeah, exactly. He creates options. Options. And it doesn't look like what Georgia Tech runs per se. But, I mean, again, if he's able to get to the perimeter, and you've seen some of the plays they're setting up now where there's a fake toss pitch to the outside because they show it once, and then you've got to throw back off of that. Or you've got a bubble outside that might be the primary read instead of something that he can go to if he sees the numbers that he wants pre-snap. Then he'll break the pocket, roll out to his right, roll out to his left, and he's essentially an option quarterback at that point. I can keep. Or I can pitch it outside to one of my receivers. Almost got himself in trouble in one of those instances, but that's okay. That's the nature of where we are right now. But you're right. You'd rather have options on the perimeter, especially when you don't know about the integrity of this offensive line down to down, when opponents like Notre Dame and North Carolina are coming up, a far cry from Jacksonville State. Yeah. You've got to have more choices available to you. And it looks like today, almost like a point guard in basketball, Jordan had a good understanding and the game was slow enough for him to make those choices with confidence. But confidence matters greatly, Gene, and we saw a lot of that today. And Nick points out, and thanks, Nick, for participating on the WarChant.com post-game show.
Thank you, Nick.
But he can't recall the last time FSU scored on 5 consecutive drives any level of competition. That sounds like a very Corey Clark statement to me. But I don't.
Corey will say, well, in 1988, he'd probably have it. I think they have. I think there's been a few. Five, not just scoring on 5 drives, 5 straight touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you can probably find 5 straight scores somewhere in there, but 5 straight touchdowns, I don't know. You have to go back at least a few years, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I'll put up this graphic too right now about Florida State's running backs tonight. And Gene, you talked about it just a little bit ago as we're on the WarChant.com post-game show. Phone lines are open, 805-5911. That's 850-805-5911. We want to hear from you and your thoughts on tonight. But 36 carries for 217 yards. That's 6.0 per carry and 4 scores. That is what the tailbacks did for Florida State today. I don't want to call it a 3-headed monster because you're playing an FCS squad, but there were some nice things that each running back contributed to the equation. When you're looking for answers, it looks like there are some more ingredients that Mike Norvell and Kenny Dillingham can bring to the table in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. How long has it been since we've seen a running game? And I know, again, it's like you said, against an FCS opponent, but man, it was refreshing to see, and those guys ran hard. But I am, there's still, at the end of the day, there's the offensive line is an issue. There's no doubt about it. I mean, especially when you had to substitute guys, there were injuries on this. And I think you wore the other team down a little bit. This was JSU's first game. You could tell they were gassed in the second half, but part of that because you started sustaining long drives, and that's some of the benefit of doing that. And then it's harder to tackle when you got fresh running backs coming at you late in the third and the fourth quarter when you're tired. I mean, it's hard to wrap those guys up and tackle them. So, I mean, that's part of the positive of doing this. And Mike Norvell teams, when they're good, they run the ball effectively. So I'm assuming this is what he's going to want to do going forward is rely on all 3 of those guys. We saw a little bit of Ja'Kai Douglas came in here and there and spot duty. So there's something to ask about some of the freshmen. At least he got a little bit of time out there as well.
Redbeard comments that he thinks Corey Clark needed this win more than anyone, I suppose, for his sanity. I hope that Corey is enjoying it. Yeah, well, we'll be hearing from either Corey or Ira over there at Doak Campbell in just a little bit after the completion of Florida State's Zoom media availability. Those are the times now. They don't go down to the what is it called, Gene? Like the track room? I forget what it was called down there. But it's the room. Turf room, yeah. So now they do all these things via Zoom, but we'll be hearing from those guys soon. We all needed it, Redbeard, in short. We all needed it. The way that first quarter was going, I think it was Brad in New York asked earlier, what were we thinking? Gene, I was coming up with one-liners and slapstick stuff. I don't know if I was going to need to bring props in here in order to make the post-game show a little bit more fun. But
oh my gosh,
Florida State was staring at 0-3. You're looking at a potential 0 for campaign, and what a difference drives can make. And I'm not saying that Jordan Travis is the answer here moving forward, as though you can set it and forget it. But for a day, you have a positive to focus on. And I'll ask you this question, Gene, about the receiving core. We saw a lot of Pokey Wilson. Morian was involved for one shot play down the field, and they tried to get him the ball around the line of scrimmage. But Keyshawn Helton was back in the game plan a little bit. That was nice to see. Your thoughts on the receiving core and just some things that jumped out to you today in Florida State's passing game. Only 29 attempts, but it was pretty productive.
Well, I think the most impressive thing, if you didn't see drops, I mean, it was nice when the guys got their chances and they're ready to wrap up a first down. They made the catches when they had to make them. Excuse me. There was a couple that were, there was one, I think it was a key third down, and Terry came down with it, and he didn't have full control, and the guy was swatting at the ball. And the fact that he was able to hold on to that thing. And again, you want to see several guys in it because it makes it, again, it's harder to defend, especially when a quarterback can buy some time. If you got 3, 4, or 5 receivers that can all get open, potentially that's going to be huge for you. And happy for Pokey's a really nice guy. You mentioned everybody loves Keyshawn Helton. I was trying to find his stats in here on, Terry Wilson led everybody with 7 catches, 86 yards. Terry with 6 catches, Helton with 3. And then, don't forget Cameron McDonald also is a big time player in that receiving game. He's a tough matchup, and he got a couple of those times he drew a pass interference. Terry drew a pass interference because you got those big bodies who are athletic. A lot of times they're going to find mismatches like they did today, or sometimes, and hats off to Jacksonville State. A couple times they knew they were beat for a long play or a touchdown, and they just wrapped them up. And it's like, all right, it's frustrating, but I mean, that's good. You're playing good defense there. But I mean, having those options in there along with those other receivers is great. I don't know who knows whether we'll see Warren Thompson again, if he's going to be back out there. Jordan Young was good to see. Jordan Young's got a lot of ability. He's such a big kid. Man, if he can just get in there a little bit too. And not as many throws to the running backs. I know that was a big thing Mike Norvell did early in the first couple of games, just 1 catch by Tola-Feely, but I'm surprised on that. But whatever, the little bit they threw, it worked out very well.
I think it was going to be more of the game plan if Rodemaker continued to play as the quarterback. Everything was short and around the line of scrimmage, and it feels like 2 completely different games because after Travis takes over and proves he can get the ball down the field to Helton, you could see it. Everybody on the sidelines lights up. You could see the effort in finishing routes. Again, I thought it was a little inconsistent on the perimeter for wide receivers in the blocking game, but guys, they were more engaged. Terry, you can tell the difference when Terry is engaged and he isn't. It's not quite Kelvin Benjamin bad of when he's not, but there is a difference. It's a notable difference. I was glad to see Jordan Young make that catch too, Gene, the contested catch where it bounces and he secures it in bounds, because of the blocking wide receivers on the perimeter, I think he's the best one by far.
Yeah.
He is committed. He plays physically. That's somebody that Ron Dugans, I think, takes great pride in coaching and developing. We have another caller now on the warchant.com postgame show. We are going to Joe in Houston in just a moment. He's actually still in the screening room. And funny enough, our screener, Terry, who did a great job last week, just sent me a message that said, in the first quarter, I was ready to start drinking Jack out of the bottle. I think everybody was ready to go. The bottle. Who needs a mixer? Who needs?
I had the beer funnel ready to put liquor down that. I mean, it was so bad at that point. But yeah, it was rough. Yeah, that you mentioned the one bobbling catch on the sideline. That was one of the ones like when they reviewed it. I'm like, are you kidding me? On that play, I mean, you could see that. That's one of the things that drives me nuts about replays is the overuse of it. When obviously, from everybody's vantage point, it's obviously a catch. But we're going to sit here and waste another 5 minutes reviewing it.
That crew was exceptional at that skill today. I want to thank Ransom for his support of our show. And he said, I think Tola-Feely has a lot of upside. I agree. Gene, do you agree?
Yeah.
In the open field, he can make some guys miss. And it's not just an FCS team. He did it last week against Miami, too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you saw it against Miami. And I know it was garbage time a little bit, but you just – I don't know. There's an edge to him. He just looks – he's a tough kid. He's not going to go down to first contact. He's always falling forward. It's just a good character trait to have as a running back. And yeah, you saw it again today. I mean, he ran for almost 10 yards a carry tonight. And I agree, more and more reps for him. But I really like what I saw 3 of the guys. I mean, Webb was just very athletic, like you mentioned, a little fire hydrant. And those guys are tough to bring down when you're low to the ground and you're strong. Yeah, and you can do some special things. So that was a fun run by him.
Well, and here's something he can do that I've seen so far. And he did this in the first game also against Georgia Tech. He can get small and get the hidden yards the way Freeman used to. And how critical are those?
Yeah.
Instead of a 2nd and 8, you get a 2nd and 6 because you get really small and you dart forward before your knees hit the ground. He's really good at that. And any hidden yard Florida State can get at this point is a hidden yard you can take. And that's another thing really quickly before we go to Joe, our next caller. Keyshawn Helton was the punt returner today. He did a very good job in kick returns, but he was the punt returner today. He didn't get to the ball quickly and consistently at all, and Florida State lost a ton of hidden yards.
They did. Two of those punts, you lost about 30 yards.
Oh, my goodness. Travis Jay's health is of paramount importance because
he's not going to be back. You saw him in crutches today. He's not going to be back. I was told we'd be lucky in 2 weeks if he's back. So he's definitely out for Notre Dame. Could be a couple more weeks after. Good thing it's not season ending, but it's going to be a while.
That's unfortunate because he was doing flashes.
Well, you know what to work on. I bet you that's going to be Mike Norvell, his emphasis on special teams. I can almost bet in those first couple periods, and they'll go out tomorrow and do a practice. They practice some on Sundays. I bet you there's going to be a lot of special team work. A lot of it's going to be on that punt return. How do you handle those punts that aren't directly to you? You got to figure out a way to get to them and not let the ball bounce down the sideline.
No doubt. D-Chai, we see you.
Thank you, buddy.
You saying thanks for us doing the show. We do it for you. And the running backs are showing promise, and I totally agree, Gene. I think you do too, that a mobile quarterback is a plus. That's why they wanted Purdy in this offense, and they got Travis. I mean, you kind of got the effect that you wanted to see out of Purdy, out of Jordan Travis.
If you'd have told me this quarterback comes in relief and runs for a bunch of yards, sparks the offense, all this, I said, oh, Chuba came in. But whatever, it works either way.
Nick, we appreciate the support. Now,
Nick.
Joe in Houston.
All right.
Waiting on hold, and he just heard the bell. Welcome, Joe. What do you have to say tonight?
It was a great win tonight. It was good to get that first W. But my question is to you guys is, I think, Terry, man, it seems like he's hurt because he's not the same. He's not effective. When we're trying to get the ball to him, he just seems like he's not doing much out there. And my question to you guys, you think we should, bench him till he's like fully 100%? Because I know he's trying, like he want to be out there, but it's like he's not really giving us that edge so we can, use him so effectively. So that's just my thoughts.
Well, yeah, Joe, they said in the Miami game he got very little reps because he had an ankle injury. So I'm guessing it's a sprained ankle. We don't get injury reports anymore, and Mike Norvell's not very forthcoming when it comes to those kind of things, which is fine. That's his right. So yeah, he's getting over an ankle injury at this point. Yeah, he's probably not 100%, but he looked better than he did against Miami. He played a lot more. So I think he's coming along getting healthy. I would think the trainers, if he needed to sit out a game or two, they'd go ahead and do that. So I'm expecting, unless there's a setback he had today, hopefully he's close to 100% by Notre Dame, and he'll be out of there.
Well, if he's able to do what he's able to do today and he's not 100%, then fine. I've got no problem with running him out there because defenses have to account for Tamori Terry. Whether or not they're not going to know until a few snaps in, and still he was able to get down the field and make a big play.
6 catches, 77. The one play another play got open. I don't know if Travis got pressured on the one play. He got another guy beat deep. He could have had a long touchdown on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But that didn't happen.
Yeah, it might be that the agility is hurt a little bit. I think there was also some doubt, frankly, in Tamori Terry, and for myriad reasons. A lot of adversity. He had a personal matter in which a family member passed away, but then. Yeah. Most importantly, from a football standpoint, he got led over the middle into a kill shot hit in week 1 when James Blackman was still the quarterback. Georgia Tech player actually ended up worse off than Terry did when both were down for injuries. But that'll make you think twice, and that'll make you think twice about trusting your quarterback. The guys around Jordan played with a lot of trust today, and that's the important thing. I don't know how much a Jordan Travis-led offense can do on the road next week against Notre Dame, Gene. But, I mean, if you're looking for positives and you're looking for belief, Jordan Travis has created that today. And you can even see it in the comments section tonight. And we appreciate everybody on YouTube and Facebook who are leaving comments. We appreciate those of you that are calling 850-805-5911. But you can see a difference. People feel a little bit better. A win even over an FCS opponent, Gene. This is where Florida State is. But a win even over an FCS opponent makes all the difference in the world. We are close to securing the services of one Corey Clark ready over there at Doak Campbell Stadium. In fact, it looks like he's ready to speak to us.
Yeah, let's go to Corey.
We will welcome him in. There's Corey Clark.
Corey, looks like you're in your garage.
Hi, hey, I'm in the national radio booth. Here at Doak Campbell Stadium, the national radio booth. I don't
look at this. The minute you show up, Corey, we get a tip. The second you show up, they know
what he does.
You're the man.
Talk to us, Corey. What did the post game sound like? What did Mike Norvell sound like after his first win at Florida State?
He was. I think he tempered it the way that he should because of the opponent and how they started. But he also said he thinks it might be the best thing that happened to him to start like that. Because look, man, I thought there was a chance they might lose 40-17. I mean, it was awful to start the game. So I think it went about as well as it could against a team like that to face adversity. And actually for the first time in how long in this program did they actually overcome adversity? They got down by 14 points. They don't typically come back and win games when they're down 14 points, even against air. So I think that was what he was most encouraged by. He felt good to see them smiling and all that. And that makes sense. I'm not dismissing that. They haven't smiled after a game since Alabama State. But for them to, I think he was really encouraged by the fact that they rallied. Defense played much better in the second half. It's still the defense, but it did play much better relatively. And then, I think Jordan Travis changed everything. I don't think it changes anything for next weekend. That's going to be a tough bear. But I think moving forward, more than anything, you see what this offense can do with a quarterback that knows a quarterback that adds something, a quarterback that is a little bit dynamic, right? I think that's what encourages you moving forward. Not necessarily that you think you're going to beat Notre Dame or he thinks they're going to beat Notre Dame, but that moving forward, man, you see how dynamic this offense can potentially be.
Corey, I don't know if anybody asked. We haven't seen Norvell speak yet. Did anybody ask why didn't Jordan Travis play earlier? Was there an injury? I guess, and what do you have to say about Tate Rodemaker and his performance?
He just said, obviously that Tate was struggling and they wanted to make a move. He's not going to kill the kid. I honestly might have pulled him after the pick six. I mean, nope, I didn't. That's
2 plays out of here.
That's not a good sign. But yes, I don't know. I don't know that anybody asked Gene. I got on to Norvell after he'd answered already his third Jordan Travis question. So folks, go back and watch that on War Chant. But now I'm in the shadows, man. Jeez Louise. Sorry about that image, guys. But I wrote about that, Gene. I think if you want to look back, I think he gets credit for pulling Rodemaker when he did, like pulling the plug as soon as he did. But at the same time, you deserve a little bit of blame because when you see the way the offense ran with that other guy, and he was clearly healthy enough to play against Georgia Tech and to play against Miami and to play in this game, what's going on in practice that it's not completely obvious that that's the right guy? That's a little bit perplexing, but they did finally make the move they needed to make.
What did it look like? I guess that's one thing, a disadvantage of those of us who are at home and the 800 people that were at the game or whatever it was. But the sideline, what was that like? It's the first time really, and I mean, going back to, I don't know, I mean, middle of last season, there was something actually positive was happening to the single. Was it just, what was the feeling, or what did it look like looking down at that sideline when Florida State was scoring touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, something we haven't seen in years?
What do you think? You're talking to Ira Schofel that I look at headlines? I'm looking at the computer, Gene.
I don't
watch that. I don't have binoculars. No, I mean, they were energetic. They were fired up. And what was cool, I asked Asante about it. Like, you can tell the defense feeds off the offense. It shouldn't be that way. We all understand that. The defense should play hard like the 2001 Ravens or the 85 Bears, even if, the Ravens had Trent Dilfer at quarterback and they still played hard. But it really does matter, and it does give you some energy and some juice when you know your offense can go down the field and score. And I think that you do feel a little bit of momentum, and I think that you can see them playing off that and really encouraging each other and getting excited when the other side made a play. That said, look, Gene, you've been doing this you've been coming to Florida State games as long as I have or longer. It didn't have the feel of a game of the century. Didn't
really
have that juice on the sidelines, and there wasn't that much back padding going on. But yeah, they were excited for each other, and it was cool that the freshmen or the newcomers, Corbin and Toafili and Webb, all got a chance to score touchdowns, and I feel like they're genuinely excited for each other too. Man, imagine how much better they feel about things with Jordan Travis at quarterback.
Oh, you could see it in their body language. I mean, it was clear. The difference was clear. I know that, Corey, you had the observation that I did too about catching the football in the punt return game. That's a pet peeve of yours. I know that from years of the press box. That's a pet peeve of yours. I agree with you. Any oddball things that stuck out to you in this game that, as you're writing about it and composing for warchant.com, just some thoughts and observations you have that might not be the headline type?
Yeah, I thought the first question I asked Norvell, it might have been the only question I asked Norvell, was the Jarian Jones unsportsmanlike penalty on a touchback. It's like, dude, is that the culture you learned when you got here? Did you watch highlights of Florida State last year? Like, that's how they play? Like, how do you do that? How do you get an unsportsmanlike on a touchback against Jacksonville State in the second quarter of a 14-7 game? But if you saw it on TV, because I saw the replay, Norvell just was screaming.
Oh, he was. Yeah, they showed it.
He was angry. And that's why I wanted to ask him about it, because I wanted to give him a chance to explain like the thought process there. And he's like, look, I can't obviously voice what I said. I can't repeat what I said to him. It wasn't pretty. But he's like, that's the stuff that's got to stop. We had just some ridiculous penalties that just have to stop, and they are going to stop. That's what he said. We'll see. The other guy used to say that too. But he said they are going to stop because they can't happen. I mean, again, they had 100 yards in penalties. And I thought, honestly, they played kind of clean until they had a couple pass interferences. And then at the end, it got really sloppy with a J. Rob and things like that. But I thought the punt returns, come on, man, go catch the ball.
Yeah. Well, they largely did play clean on offense, because if you're going to put together all those drives that FSU did, 45 plays, I mean, none of them were like, sudden change, 2-play, 25-yard drives for a touchdown. If you're going to go down the field as consistent as FSU did, you can't be taking a holding penalty or a snap penalty or anything like that. So in that regard, they were pretty clean. And I could tell you just from watching the TV broadcast of today's game, Norvell's choice words, they made the air when he was screaming down Jerryon Jones. Effing selfish was one of the things that made it over the broadcast.
Did he say effing?
No, he did not.
Okay, good.
I know we're not on the radio, so I suppose I could say it, but I suppose, you know.
Yeah, it's not. There's no FCC overlord here, but let's not go down that path. But yeah, that's the thing. And Cord, the first thing I'm thinking is you finally had something good happen. Finally, you scored a touchdown very next play, and it just meaningless thing. I mean, so that's got to be just driving Mike Norvell crazy. Was there? And I know it's tough with Mike Norvell. He doesn't give you much information. Any clarity either on? I know we had a couple of the offensive linemen go down. Darius Washington, Andrew Baselli, and then you had some players that didn't start that normally start, specifically Dante Lucas, Maurice Smith, and I guess they both got in the game later. But was there any kind of clarification there in the press box of what was going on with all these guys?
No. Washington is obviously, they'll see, even if it was a broken ankle, he wouldn't tell us. Baselli did come back into the game.
So, he did. I didn't see that. Great. Okay.
I did not see Dante Lucas in the game. You say you saw. I don't remember seeing him. I know
he came back. They brought him back after. I think after Baselli got hurt or something. He did. He rolled back out there. I'm pretty sure.
My thought was obviously it was something discipline related where they missed a half because literally Maurice came out. It was snapping balls to Jordan Travis before the second half started. He was out there snapping balls to him. So I think it was those two. Were at least Maurice Smith for sure was a discipline thing. But again, he's not going to talk about that. It's just so hard to judge because of who the opponent is. So you have to couch and qualify everything. But I was cautiously encouraged by everything that we saw on offense. And what I like the most that Travis does, the read isn't just give it to the running back or pull it and run yourself. The read is also throw the ball. Yeah. And other than the almost horrific interception he threw at his own 10-yard line, every decision he made, it seemed like it was the right decision. Or I would say 85 to 90% of the time he made the right decision, which around here is a record we haven't seen in a long time. And one more thing, I know you guys, I'll get going, but one thing I was really encouraged by was the fourth down in the second quarter, which I thought Norvell had to go for it there. And he got it. It wasn't, Jordan Travis didn't have it.
We talked about that earlier.
He bowled through the guy to get the first down. And then the same thing on like the 3rd and 7 on the sideline or 3rd and 5 where he ran, they reviewed it somehow because he only made it by 2 yards. That was 4 minutes of my life I won't get back. And the Keyshawn touchdown and the LaDamian Webb touchdown. I mean, what are they doing?
And the Jordan Young catch. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's 4 of the worst things. But hey, when Nooney scores against Virginia Tech in the opener, let's not review that. Anyway, the fact that he's bullying those guys over where you can't coach every yard all the time. And Florida State hasn't had a quarterback that you can count on to get a first down on 3rd and short or 4th and short in a long time. I don't know, since Winston, I guess, but he didn't. He usually used his arm. Ponder, maybe. It is such a weapon. It is such a comfort blanket for an offense to know that you can have a quarterback that's a little bit mobile, that can lean forward. Maybe he's not going to bowl anybody over like Herschel Walker, but he can lean through someone and get a first. I think that's something positive moving forward. Again, next week's going to be completely different. I don't even know if Jordan Travis is the answer, but don't you think that there is a chance that Chubba Purdy is Jordan Travis plus, like faster, bigger, maybe a better thrower? You saw what Jordan Travis did with this offense. What is a faster kid, a better passer of the ball? What can he potentially do with this offense? I think, again, as you look forward to the future, that's something that could be encouraging.
Corey, you should be selling season tickets on Monday because that idea, that comment right there, I think would at least get 5 people to say yes.
I don't know, buddy.
The rest of the season. So you popping the champagne tonight, Corey? Because I feel great. This is like Lightning Stanley Cup. Knowles win over Jacksonville State. I mean, it's been a great week.
The Braves won a postseason series. Yeah,
that is the biggest one.
The Ultra's going to be flowing at the Clark House tonight.
I will tell you, one streak remains, Corey, of all this. There's one record that did not fall, and that is FSU's undefeated record against FCS teams. They are now 26-0. So all those other records that have fallen the last couple of years, there's one left, and thank goodness that one's still alive.
I thought it was falling, boys. I'll be honest. And then I was like, they're gonna go winless. That's how much Jordan Travis changed my outlook on the season. I certainly don't think they're going 9-2 now, but I think if he can stay healthy and you can mix Chubba in, I think now you could. I'm not even finished the sentence.
Yeah, let's see him against an FBS team before we start going there.
You could find a way to 5 or 6 wins, but I feel gross having that sentence come out of my mouth.
Can you tell us before we let you go, Corey? What do we got? What are you and Ira working on post game here? What do we look forward to?
So I'm going to write a column. I already wrote like an instant analysis. That'll be up on War Chant in the next 5 minutes. Just my thoughts on what we saw today. Quick reactions. Ira's writing a game story. He'll do his 3-2-1 probably tomorrow night, and I'm going to write a column tonight that'll be up in the morning, centering on the new quarterback.
Cool.
I say new quarterbak. Nothing's guaranteed, but I think Tate Rodemaker's. We're going to get a reset for 2021.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Thanks, Corey. Good work. Senior writer, warchant.com. Corey Clark joining us. And he's out as he does the signature move there at the end. And before we kind of rushed through this. I want to thank Brad earlier. I'm bringing this one back here. And he asked about DJ Lundy's role. I don't know if you saw the field or not much. I didn't.
Well,
out there.
He was supposed to be playing fullback a little bit more this season.
Yeah.
He had an injury concern, and he dressed for warm-ups today. Honestly, when I was assessing, some of the things that were going on, I think DJ's in the future plans. I don't know.
They're very excited about him. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he brings that. I mean, it reminds me of the potential of somebody like a Freddie Stevenson, right? I mean, Freddie started out as a linebacker. He ended up being a really good lead blocker for Dalvin Cook. Maybe DJ Lundy can be like that on offense, but then also bring something for you.
He did have a tackle, so I'm sorry about that, Brad. He did get in there, but DJ Lundy did have a tackle in the game. So look for bigger, better things from DJ down the road.
Gene, we do have Mike Norvell's press conference available, as all press conferences on warchant.com from any media availability, be it football season, basketball season's around the corner. Make sure you hit subscribe right underneath this video if you're watching on YouTube for the first time. Welcome to you guys, first of all. Secondly, hit subscribe, then hit the bell after. You'll be notified every time warchant.com posts great video content. And now I'm going to bring up, Gene, some final thoughts before I bring up Mike Norvell's press conference, but I'm going to pull it up in just a second. Anything that stuck out to you about what Corey said or anything in general?
Just that both you and him really hate when you don't cover punt returns and you let the ball bounce 30 yards. You guys really have a problem with that, apparently. I'm sure Mike Norvell's perfectly fine with it. So that's it. But let's hear what Mike Norvell has to say. He looks much happier than he did last week from his living room after watching that Miami debacle.
Here is Mike Norvell, courtesy of Warchant TV.
It was great to be back on the sideline with them. There in the first quarter, didn't necessarily start off like we envisioned, but like we told the team throughout the course of the week, there's only so many moments that are come along through the course of your career that you can really look back to, and you see a moment where you decide to make a change. You decide to go out there and let that be a defining moment. And really tonight, I think when you're down 21-7. We had that opportunity, and like I said, it didn't go like we necessarily wanted to at the beginning, but it might just have went like we needed it to. And to see our team respond, to see them, in all three phases, have impact plays, just really proud of our guys. And it was great to be in the locker room with them there after the game. You can see the joy, you can see the excitement of winning a game. And it's been a challenge for these guys. They've been through a lot. And they're just continuing to work. They're continuing to believe. When you're in that moment of adversity, your true character is going to show itself. And we talked all week about our response and maximizing the opportunity. And even against adversity tonight and a lot of the pressure that some of our guys put on themselves, the pressure that's out there. I thought our guys handled that extremely well, and we were able to find a way to come out victorious tonight. And, I thought it was a great performance. Really for the second half or the second quarter on, just in how our guys decided to go out there and play the game, and it was great to get the win.
First question will be Irish Hotel from Warchant.
Yeah, if you could talk about the decision to go with Tate, and then what obviously Jordan just played an incredible game. Have the injuries been what's been holding him back so far?
I think when you look through the course of the week, we had a banged up quarterback room, and James had a couple issues that he's working through. Obviously, Jordan, I'd like to say that the performance he showed from all the work he got in practice, but he really missed the majority of this week of work. But it showed really our football team that the way that you prepare, you get to maximize the opportunities that you get, physically, but even with Jordan being limited, the way that he was able to execute the game plan that we had, it showed the mental preparation. And we got some work out of him yesterday in practice, and we said that we would look at how he felt there in pregame. We knew we were going to be going with Tate, and I appreciate the way that Tate prepared this week, and you did some good things in practice, and Tate's got a great future in front of him. Obviously there's first start as a true freshman. There's some things that he'd like to have back and some opportunities, but Jordan told us in pregame that he felt like he could go out and play at a high level, and so we wanted to give him that opportunity, looking for a spark, and we knew that we could potentially get a spark with his legs, but you saw all the work that he's put in throughout the off season, and the opportunities that he's had in fall camp and what he was able to do with his arm. Just really, really proud of that young man, and he sees the moment, and excited about what the future can be for him. We got to make sure that he continues to take care of himself, and then obviously the things that he's doing, to continue to practice, to continue to develop. But really proud of the way that he played tonight.
Hey, Coach, how much does Jordan's legs just allow the offense to kind of find its footing, run the ball aggressively? You guys ran the ball very well from the point he entered the game on, not solely because of him making plays, but it seemed like the O-line blocked better and the backs felt invigorated, I would say.
I think he provides another threat, and I do think the O-line. That group, we played a lot of people up front, and we had a couple of guys that were out tonight, and obviously some new opportunities for guys to step up, and I think Jordan provides that threat. I thought he did a good job in the run game, forcing the defense to have to account for him. I thought he did a good job of taking the perimeter when he had opportunities to do that, and then obviously opened up some good run lanes for the backs, and you got to have to credit the offensive line. When you look at that type of rushing performance, you're really pleased with the work that they were able to do, even playing as many guys as we have.
Jordan talked about coming into the season after kind of being a guy who's, I think, looked at more or been used, I guess, more as a guy who you think or know is going to be running, wanting to show he has that arm too. I guess how nice was it for him to go out there and show that he can make those throws? And what can that do for him as a runner if he's able to kind of keep defenses honest as a passer?
Oh no, no question. That's something that I've seen in practice, and I've seen him go out there and throw the ball with great velocity, with great accuracy. The thing that I was so pleased with tonight is you saw the fundamentals really carry over into the game, and coupled with not really being able to practice as much this week, I think that just is a tremendous compliment to the young man, just to stay focused on those little things. And when the moment was there, he definitely was on point. You hit some unbelievable throws down the field. Really just was a tremendous part for the offense and really our entire football team.
Coach, something you mentioned that the team was really emphasizing this last week was third down on both sides of the ball, and I believe you all went 10 for 16 on offense, and then Jacksonville State only got 3 of 10. Could you just kind of evaluate how you think the team responded to that challenge that you put forth to them?
It's something we work a lot on. We know that's going to be critical in every game. I was glad to see that we were able to extend drives offensively. It allowed us, I think we had 84 snaps on offense, and we were able to mix the tempo. We also had the ball for 34, almost 35 minutes, which is something that you want to be able to see. It obviously allows our defense to play less snaps, but the defense also helped itself by being able to get off the field. There's still some missed opportunities that we'd like to have back. We have to continue to work on the communication, the discipline, the details of trusting those fundamentals and finishing plays when we get the opportunity. I think there was a couple times we had them in the backfield and allowed them to extend the drive. But it's all in all, it was an improvement in all aspects. I think our guys, they embraced, like I mentioned, Wednesday might have been our best practice since we've been here, and that was our third down, red zone, emphasis. So it was good to see that show up in the game.
Coach, did anything change game plan wise when you had to switch over to Jordan? I mean, I know you've coached, different kind of quarterbacks, but his sort of skill set, I don't really think of Mike Bercovici or Riley Ferguson or Brady was really kind of the dual threat kind of guy like he was. Did anything have to change for you and Kenny when Jordan went in?
No, we ran the offense, and Jordan's very similar to Taylor Kelly, who I was able to coach for 3 years at Arizona State. A young man that was versatile in all aspects, but he's what I love about him is that, he doesn't always just rely on his legs, and he, being able to extend plays. I think maybe my favorite play of the night was when he scrambled and was able to hit Terry Wilson there on the comeback over on the far side. That was probably my favorite play because the defense, he was able to work up trying to get to him, and he still kept his eyes down the field through a great strike. It was really a big play, for our offense, just to see him in that moment on a third down. But for Jordan, he's just going to continue to work. We don't have to really change anything. He opens up some unique opportunities with what he can do with his legs, but we just want to take what the defense gives us.
Back to Kurt from the Democrat.
You mentioned Jordan and what he did for the running back some. There were guys who I think any of them had found the end zone through 2 games. And I think you saw improved offensive line play as the game went on, but I think you also saw kind of all 3 of their individual playmaking ability. How nice do you think that will be for them going forward to kind of find that success today?
Oh, man, I think it's great. You look at, Lawrence, Jashawn, and LaDamian. Those guys haven't been here very long. And, they're all newcomers to the program. You mentioned the offensive line and just the number of different units we've had to run out there. We've had so many combinations already in the first 3 games, but it shows guys are trying to maximize the opportunities that they get, and I think that you see that growth. I'm excited about our offensive line and obviously that running back group as we continue to gain in our confidence. And tonight was big because we needed to see that a positive outcome from this that really helped showcase the work that they've been putting in. And, like I said, it worked out how it needed to, I believe. Corey, you're on mute. That's a good press conference. You're still on mute, Corey. Zoom 2020.
How about now? You got me now?
I got you now.
Sweet. Congratulations on the win. It looked like you had some words for Jarian after the unsportsmanlike on the kickoff. I don't know. You can't really go into what he said, but did he get the message? Does the team get the message? Because 10 penalties, again, it was a nice win. It was a great comeback, but moving forward, that's the stuff that has to get cleaned up, right?
Yes, sir. I don't want to repeat and probably shouldn't repeat towards where some of the things that were said. So we're going to continue to emphasize doing things to a certain standard. And there were some foolish penalties that showed up. There were some things that were technique penalties that showed up. Some holding calls on the perimeter. We had, we just got to continue to work to keep our hands inside. We had a couple of false start, penalties that, it's a continued work in progress for us. I can tell you that our guys are being held accountable to what the standard is, and at the end of the day, we're going to get this fixed. It's going to get eliminated, and so we're going to continue to push forward because you get 10 penalties, in a game, and it's really challenging to go out there and be able to sustain success because of some of the things that you have to overcome. So we're going to get that corrected, and we're going to continue to emphasize that and do it in every area.
2 more. Next one would be Christy.
Hey, Coach. How much did the team just need the injection of confidence that comes with a win, with comes sustained drives, back-to-back successful drives, and getting some stops on defense as well?
I think it's like I said at the beginning. It wasn't pretty throughout at some points tonight, but it might have been exactly what we needed. We needed to be able to respond to adversity. we needed to be able to go out there and sustain success throughout those moments, and to be able to feed off of each other. You obviously had some explosive plays offensively. Special teams had a couple of explosive plays defensively. Got some great stops. You got Dante got another interception that was critical throughout the course of the game. Those are things that you want to see. You want to see all phases being able to really build and build off of each other's performance, and really be able to create that momentum and sustain that momentum through the end.
All right, last question. On the right side.
Is Ira on mute too?
I thought I did it. Rough night. After everything this team's been through over the last 9-10 months, and then the way that the season started, I mean, how good was it to walk in that locker room tonight? What did that feel like, just seeing the way the guys, I'm sure, were celebrating?
I love seeing their smile, and it's like we talked about. You learn from every experience, and we talked about it in pregame. I mean, tonight, I had an opportunity to be a defining moment, and not just tonight. I mean, obviously this is the game, but the week of practice. Nobody was feeling good about ourselves, early in this week. And, there's a lot of challenges that we've had to overcome. There's some guys that were not available tonight for a variety of different reasons. And other guys had to step up. But, to be able to go out there and to overcome the adversity that we saw early in this contest, I mean, it was a tremendous joy to be able to walk in that locker room and to see their guys' eyes. Because it's not just about winning the game. There's a lot of ways that you can find a way to win a game. Right? We're trying to do something that's building not only for now, but also building for the future. And to see that response in adversity, and just like I said, all the pressure that these guys kind of put on themselves, and we put on, it's the human nature. But to go out there and to be able to respond in that moment, and to find a way to end this game victorious the way that we did, it was a great joy, and I'm really proud of this football team.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
So there he was, Mike Norvell.
Well, let me start by saying
Go ahead, Gene.
I've never been so proud of Corey and Ira in my life here. I mean, getting called out by Mike Norvell. That was fantastic. Way to go, War Chant crew.
Oh, my
Way
goodness.
to go. Hey, I'm going to try to do a little screen share here if I can get it going on my computer here, because someone brought up about Jordan Travis breaking the rock, and I was able to find that while we were watching Mike Norvell, and it is pretty cool. So let me see if I can get this going here. And there we go, right there, Tom. And that's how cool is that? I mean, yeah, I got it. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. That's neat stuff. And for these kids, I mean, it's been rough. I know you can go ahead and trash them for beating Jacksonville State. It's an FCS team. I get it. But man, just to see all the work these kids have put in, all they've had to put up with through the pandemic and everything else, to at least have a positive moment like this. I feel really good for the kids to have this moment, and hopefully that something they can build on.
Breaking through, right? Isn't that the headline to go along with that photo, Gene? I think that might be the overused headline. If you use that photo on your front page of your website or your old newspaper, if you work in that anymore. But it was you could tell that as a weight lifted off the shoulders for Mike Norvell. You could see it, the way the players were carrying themselves. And Mike said it himself, that you've got to have the reinforcement that what you're doing, what you're sacrificing, it's going to work. And so that is a huge boon for Mike Norvell to be able to walk into a Sunday meeting, because they review things on Sundays, and to say, see, guys, if you pay attention to your teaching and you trust your teaching, we're going to get some results. I get it and you get it, that it's an FCS opponent, and this is a really small baby step. But they needed it desperately, because they're starving for anything that they can get. And tonight, after being down 14-0, and Jacksonville State had the ball and everything looked bleak, Florida State finally has a reason to smile and a reason to hope a little bit.
As Corey pointed out, I mean, you thought the same thing I did too. I'm like, when it was 21-7, I'm like, they don't win this, they're not winning a game. It's going to be, we're going back to 72 or whatever the year was. So they're not going to win a freaking game. And then what is that going to do to recruiting? What's that going to do? Ticket sales, contribution. I mean, that's a tough hole to dig out of. I mean, that's bad. I still don't think they're going to win too many games this year, but I mean, 3, 4, 5 games, very possible. As long, again, we had the discussion earlier in the week, Tom, about kind of what needs to happen. For me, by the time you get to November, you just need to show a little progress. I mean, win 1 or 2 of those games in there, show progress, look like you're a better football team. But this was, like you said, it's a baby step, but it was a necessary step because you've been just going backwards. You've been falling down that hill further and further and further. You need to stop the momentum, and now you got it. You saw the positive look on the players' faces. Mike Norvell, different attitude, and that is infection. It's gonna play over. Now, the bad part is, man, you wish you'd play a Duke or an NC State or a Syracuse this week. Really, you get something positive happening, and you got to travel to South Bend and play Notre Dame. But it's the hand you've been dealt. You just, again, probably not winning the game, but man, if they could just be competitive up there, that would go a long way.
Well, yeah, you look at the next few opponents. Obviously Notre Dame is the number one. When you put the schedule together and you said these are games Florida State's not winning, it's Clemson at the top, and then second probably was Notre Dame preseason before you saw what De'Aaron King was. Like Notre Dame was the one you fix an ink and L next to, and that's what Florida State has to contend with. But, I mean, it's a really good quarterback in Sam Howell, who'll have a little bit of FSU extra attention on his mind. North Carolina is woefully inconsistent, but that offense can put up points.
Mm-hmm.
So the defense better be ready. And I suppose that's an opportunity to segue, Gene, to the defense because there's a lot of smiles tonight for Nole fans, especially with quarterback play as it was and the offensive output as it was. The defense was a little bit of both, and there's enough reason to be concerned and to have serious conversations instead of happy ones about the defense moving forward. What did you see out of them today, and what were your takeaways?
Like I said, I like the fact that they went 2.5 quarters, only gave up 3 points, but it's hard to get those first couple series out of my mind because they were pretty ugly, and the fact that we talked about before, teams are able to consistently find the little open spots in the middle of the field or wherever it was whenever they needed it. So that was kind of frustrating.
Yep.
And when you look down at the individual defensive numbers, which I'm looking right now, I don't know if you can pull that up on there. But again, 5 tackles for loss. I mean, you're playing an FCS team. 5 tackles for loss against a really good team is a bad number. And that's when you start getting teams behind the chains, you start getting the 3 and outs, you start putting them in bad situations where you create turnovers. Very few, you can't play and continue to do that. And that's, again, that's your linebackers, that's your defensive front, not getting penetration, not making plays like that. And that's, to me, is the most frustrating thing when you go to that bottom, that 5 tackles for loss, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I agree. And Marvin Wilson being out for a half because of a targeting call last week is not enough of an excuse, especially when broken record time. This is the negative part of the discussion when the defense was supposed to be the group that you could rely upon as this offense learned the new scheme and as they got their feet underneath them. It just hasn't been. And you would have hoped to see a little bit more of dominance from that front group against an FCS opponent playing its first game of the season. And it just that wasn't the case on this particular night. Was it better? Yes. Did they seem to feed off of the offensive success? I think absolutely they did. I think that's just momentum. And also I think fatigue plays a factor there. Jacksonville State hasn't been through 4 quarters of that speed of football. So you wear them down. Even though, Florida State's offense kept the Jacksonville State defense on the field for a lot of plays. I mean, listen, game speed is something that's hard to duplicate. So there's a lot of factors in there. Not many of them are positive. And with Notre Dame on the horizon, I think, this post-game show next week might have some more lamenting. We knew that Jordan Travis would be the number one topic this week, but that's the under the surface thing to pay attention to this week and how Coach Fuller talks about them and what they do and what they can do to prevent an attack from Ian Book and the Notre Dame offense, assuming that Notre Dame's COVID issues go by the wayside a little bit and they're able to field a competitive team. But I think, I'm not a defeatist, and I know you're not either, Gene. But if that's a game that needs to get moved, I think a lot of people would say, okay, let this let this team work on what they need to work on for an extra week without having Notre Dame.
Think about the 2 with the injuries too, man. If you get a week off, you get a week off, you get some of these guys heal up, you can kind of go. So now you have your quarterback, and it. And I know Mike Norvell answered this, and I think he's going to always, regardless, you could have the most pocket passer who can't. You could have Chris Winkie in there or Lamar Jackson. He would say we're going to run our offense, but that's not true. We know that. That's one of the things we think is good about this coaching staff is they will customize what they're doing offensively around the strengths of their players. So what Jordan Travis brings to the table is night and day from Tate Rodemaker and from James Blackman. So there's absolutely no doubt they're changing the offense for them. Now that they know, because I think they went into this thinking they're going to do Rodemaker, Chuba, Jordan Travis, who knows if Blackman was going to get it or not. So I think they went into this kind of an open mind. Well, now you know who your guy is. So if they had an extra week to be able to prepare, maybe I'm not going to go down that road making stuff up, but some way, if you could get that week off, would be great. But I mean, it is going to help them. I think now they can focus on, they know what works in this offense. They know what to do, what plays to call. They're going to maximize what Jordan Travis can do and this offense can do.
Yeah, and I'll say before I get to my point on that too, Gene, is 850-805-5911. We've got time for maybe one or two more calls.
Yeah,
We're wrapping it up here, but if you want to get in and you want to get in under the wire, this is your last chance right now. So feel free to call that number, 850-805-5911. But Gene, I think one of the good things here is the way Jordan Travis plays the game is the way that this coaching staff wants to see Chubba Purdy play the game. And that's the offense that they want to run with Chubba. Maybe there's going to be some different wrinkles, like small wrinkles, but by and large, you're using mobility as one of your principal weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about development of the offensive line, development of the receivers and the tight ends, where everybody needs to be in the types of plays that they're going to run, at least the development now starts with Jordan Travis under center or in the shotgun or wherever he's going to line up, ahead of a time in which Chubba Purdy is going to be the quarterback moving forward. Because I have to think, even though Chubba didn't play today, Tate's performance allows Chubba to climb up the ranks a little bit when you're talking about divvying up snaps during the week in practice.
And it gives him a little bit more time to heal too. And I think he was medically cleared from, I got confirmation of that again this week. He was good to go in this game. He dressed out, he warmed up. So, but I mean, still, there's always that lingering fear. I mean, a broken collarbone, it's nothing minor. And so the further you can put it off, though, he has to take a real hit in college, the better chances for that. But you're right. So if you kind of focus on these guys being your starters, you can really install the kind of offense to maximize that. And we talk about, the read option is something. James Blackman's been there. He's never been able to run that. I mean, I know it was in the offense, but you're not going to run that play because he can't do it. Well, you got a guy who can do it and do it really well now. And then again, and then you can mix them. What I like, he brought up the play. Did he bring up the play to Pokey that we talked about before when he had that option? He rolled. I think Norvell specifically brought that play up, and that shows you what you can bring to the table by having a quarterback, like you said, not one option, two options, but three options, can do three different things, and the pressure that puts on the defense. It also needs to work for the wide receivers, need to work on this. It's different for them because they may have a little bit more time. They need to learn to come back to the ball more when he's scrambling and doing these kind of things. So you need time to revamp that offense, but it's exciting because you actually have something to work with now. Before you're like, man, just don't implode on every play. And now you got, hey, we know what our strength is and we can work around it.
Yeah, I see Mario asks, did FSU get its first sack today?
Yes.
Well, there were two today, first of all. Thank you very much. And secondly, they got their first 3 and out in forever in a day. That happened in this game.
I think there's just one, though, right? Was there 1 3 and out?
I think it was just the one. There might have been a second one in the second half. Only 3 points scored against in the second half. Baby steps, Gene. It's a baby step kind of week.
So maybe, I would say 2. If you get 2 3 and outs against Notre Dame, that would be something.
That would, I think we would maybe do a shirtless edition of the post-game show next week after the game from South Bend if Florida State pitches 2 3 and outs. That's not actually going to happen, but we would need to do something pretty ridiculous.
I do have it. I will say I've got it on ice. I've got my Bourbon County. It's a little limited edition in Bourbon County, the coffee edition that's sitting there from Goose Island, sitting there chilling. I'm waiting. I think the first FBS opponent they beat.
Okay.
So it probably won't be next week, but at some point I will pop that baby during the show.
Hopefully it becomes like product placement because if you want to sponsor this great program, you own a business out there, feel free. We'll put your logo wherever you like, right in front of my face, in front of Gene's, wherever you want. But product placement, we can make it happen.
Put all your beer back here. Let's get a brewer back there.
We certainly could. And again, it's been a pleasure again this week. Make sure that if you haven't subscribed yet, to hit the subscribe button right underneath this video on War Chant's YouTube page. Hit the bell afterwards. You're going to get the notifications that warchant.com puts up their great content. You're going to know at the instant that War Chant does. Gene, throughout the week, you guys have call-in shows for Wake Up War Chant. You have Michael Langston recruiting chats, your happy hour program. And then, of course, in the coming days at warchant.com, you've got the 3-2-1 from Ira. You're going to have Corey's reaction to tonight and his column from tonight. And then, of course, you put out your Pro Football Focus numbers. Do you do a 5 takes every week, or is that when crisis arises for the 5 takes?
Yeah, I saved that one up. The problem was because great minds think alike. I would Corey and Ira would do their columns, and they would take all my good ideas for my 5 takes because they're already putting them in their columns, and I had to kind of scramble and come up with stuff. So my takes weren't quite as good, but I still will roll it out now and again. But definitely do the Pro Football Focus grades, and Ira's 3-2-1 is the most popular column each week for us. So that'll be out tomorrow as well. So I'm really curious to see what our sage Irish O'Fell will have to tell the fans of Florida State and the War Chant subscribers.
Yeah, it is required reading as show prep for Monday's Jeff Cameron show. I always read it, always make sure we have it ready to go. And Iris,
and you can pump yourself. You can do the Jeff Cameron show 3 to 6 Monday through Friday, ESPN 97.9.
There's the plug. You did it for me. There it is. Worldwide, ESPNTallahassee.com. And we also do pregame shows, folks. We'll do one again next week. Pregame shows, Jeff Cameron and myself, before every Florida State football game right here on War Chant TV. You can find us the old-fashioned way in Tallahassee on the radio, but if you live elsewhere, you can find us right here on War Chant TV. Dean, it looks like the callers are out celebrating. I think they're all, Cat 5 maintain has been lifted. That's what they want. But the callers are pretty happy tonight. So we don't have any more. Do you have any closing thoughts before we sign off for this WarChant.com?
No, other than it's going to be a late night next week because that is a night. That's a 7:30 kickoff on NBC, I believe. So the Notre Dame Broadcasting Network. So we'll have that. So we'll be up late again with you guys next week. So welcome to join us. Call in. Give your social media comments. Looking forward to it. So we'll have you'll have coverage all week in Notre Dame. We do a feature each week where we have a Notre Dame media person to preview them. I'll have I didn't do it this week because I really didn't want to break down Jacksonville State, Florida State too much, but I'll do my matchup analysis between the two teams. So we got that going as well. So it'll be a really busy week on War Chant. So please tune in.
2 questions before we go. Gene Charles got these in under the wire. Can FSU score on Notre Dame, and will the FSU defense give up 56 points in the half? I think yes and no. Would you agree?
Yes, yeah, they're definitely going to look. It's not going to be an offensive explosion. We know that Jordan Travis gives them something. They might have some semblance of an offense. I don't know how many they'll score, but they're going to score. They're not giving up 56 points. Come on now. I mean, Derek King couldn't do that. I mean, that's the greatest quarterback in college football. He couldn't do that. So no way that's happening.
This is how I know the hard stuff is flowing.
There we go. That's when Abigail I love that. There we go.
So if you are correct, sir or ma'am, who sent that comment, because I think that's the kid from like the Chucky movies or whatever. But if you are correct and it's 31,
no, that's a kid with what's his name from Three's Company did those series where they had the really bad kid. What was that? Somebody put that out with that. What was that show?
It's like bad. I don't know. I don't remember.
But that's the naughty kid.
Yeah, exactly. The Gilbert Gottfried was in the movies, and the kid was just like a terror. So if you're right, though, you could be the first caller next week on the WarChant.com post-game show. Once again, subscribe to all of WarChant's pages. Go to WarChant.com. If you haven't signed up for the exceptional coverage, use code WarChant30 for your first month free. For Gene Williams, the founder and administrator of WarChant.com, I want to thank everybody. And we want to thank everybody that sent a
Eric Register Problem Child. That was the name of the movie.
Problem Child.
There was 2 or 3 of them. I don't know how many. There were several of them. They weren't great, but whatever. That was the kid.
Yeah, Eric, Marlo, Shane, Antonio, thank you for the help on that one. For everybody who sent a little donation our way to the War Chant side of things, we really appreciate it. To everybody who commented, to those who called, to Terry on the calls for screening.
Thank you, Terry. Good work.
And for Gene Williams, I'm Tom Lang.
Cheers to the Noles win.
1 and 2, but a big one.